This is Rebecca with Road True Crime, and we're going to talk about some case updates and highlights and whatnot. And therefore, if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. And if you've not already done so, please hit that subscribe button right now. Because it's free, doesn't cost anything, and it just helps the channel get more exposure, and people out there to see the information for what it is. So let's get started. I guess the first thing we can talk about tonight is the Karen Read trial, or the Karen Read retrial. Those of you who don't know who that is, she is a woman from Boston who was being accused of murdering her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, who was a Boston police officer. Now, this original case happened about 3 or 4 years ago. She and he were out drinking with friends. Both of them were intoxicated. They were invited to a house party after they had already been out all night, and she dropped him off. Now, according to her, she didn't see him, and when she went back, she couldn't find him. He was found the next day in the front yard of the house she dropped him off at, dead. But over the last few years, she went to trial the first time, accused of murder. It became a mistrial, and the prosecutor recharged her. So today, they acquitted her of murder, but they found her guilty of drunk driving, which I think is appropriate right there. And this case brought up so many other things like police corruption, he said, she said, infidelity, drinking, all kinds of craziness. And it was a very, very awful case to follow because just how many things they were saying about her, about him, it was nuts. So she has been found not guilty of murder, but guilty of drunk driving. So like I said, there was enough reasonable doubt. I couldn't say for certain whether or not she actually did kill John O'Keefe, but she was drunk that night. That was never disproven. So there's that. Let's see. There's been some updates in the Diddy trial, but I really haven't been following it too much because there's just constant updates all the time. So I will get more into that probably closer to before they go and give it to the jury to deliberate on and just do a big deep dive on it at that point. Let's see. Tyler Perry has been accused of both sexual harassment and sexual assault by a actor, which is very, very eye-opening because, Tyler Perry is like the guy for the Black community who tells the Black story and whatnot, Medea and everything. And I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Tyler Perry. I mean, I've seen one movie. Just his stuff is just not my cup of tea. It just isn't, I saw The Diary of a Mad Black Woman back in the day, and I was like, okay, this is all right, but just wasn't my thing. Now, supposedly, Lee Daniels is involved in some of this, and if you don't know who that is, he's a director. He did the Butler, which was a great movie, had Forest Whitaker in it. But Lee Daniels has had some rumors and speculation going around about him for better part of 10 years. Monique, the comedian, was speaking out about him a long time ago because he didn't pay her for her part, and I believe it was The Butler, and she was talking smack about him, saying, "Hey, where's my money?" That kind of thing. And he pretty much had her blackballed from Hollywood for the way she was talking. So, this Tyler Perry thing is very eye-opening because he has been involved and he's been around for the last 20 years doing things. So, I hope if he is guilty, of this, that he gets tossed out on his butt. But if he's not guilty, he gets exonerated in court, but I don't know. I said it's very eye-opening that he's being accused. Let's see. So there's Karen Read. Oh yeah, let's talk about R. Kelly. So who here thinks the Aryan Nation is trying to get him killed? Raise your hand. Nope. Okay. So here's my thing. I mean, they're saying he had a drug overdose while in prison, that he was given too much of a medication. He was taken to Duke University Hospital, which is here in North Carolina, which is where I'm at, because he's at the federal prison in Butner, which is not too far from here. But, well, it's a couple hours from here. So he was taken to Duke, and he was diagnosed with having blood clots in his lung and legs. Now he's claiming that the Aryan Nation is out to kill him, so he's begging to be released and be put on home confinement. I don't know. I think if anyone's trying to kill him, it's not the Aryan Nation. It's probably a relative of one of the women he victimized for years. Because, yeah, I think that's what happened. Like my late husband, just to give you an example, my late husband had a younger aunt that was murdered by her own ex-husband. And when that happened, my late father-in-law committed a crime to get into the jail system to try and find the guy who killed her so he could kill him. So these are things I could see as being a possibility, because he's been locked up for some time now, and that's enough time for somebody to try to work the system to get in there and get to him. So, but what they've done is they have put him in solitary. Now, he claims that when he went to Duke and they found the blood clots, that the feds are refusing to let him have treatment to get that fixed, and that's illegal. They cannot do that. So, like I said, he's in isolation now at Butner. So we'll see what happens, but I don't think the Aryan Nation's out to get him. Let's see. What we got that. We got that. Yeah, we've had some missing kids out of High Point. We got an Alicia Johnson, she's 17, went missing June 11th. So not that long ago. So a week ago, actually. And don't know where she is. These kids are just disappearing like you would not believe around here. And then we've got shootings going on left and right. It's bad, Good evening. It's really bad because we've had so many kids, and young men in between the ages of say like 19 to 28 that have gotten killed in the area, and it's over what? It's all gang related. We had a guy, 19-year-old kid get killed about 2 weeks ago, and then his 23-year-old partner in the car died on Sunday, because he was also injured in that shooting. And then the same day, they shot up the 19-year-old mother's house. So I have no idea, what the hell's going on. This is insane. Um, then there was another shooting, gosh, not too far from where my youngest child works. Somebody got gunned down there. They didn't survive. From what I understand, this is all gang related and a lot of it's retaliatory. So who knows what's happening. But if you are in the Greensboro, High Point, Thomasville, Winston-Salem area, please be careful because this is just off the chain. Let's see what I got comments here. Oh, you're near Winston. Yeah. So Kit Kat here says she lives near Winston-Salem and that the crime is getting terrible in the Triad. And that is true. We are seeing higher rates of crime. And we've got a heat wave coming. And it's always been proven with heat waves that the crime rate goes up significantly. Significantly. So it's getting hotter. It's going to get worse. I guess the final thing I really want to talk about tonight is more and more comments are coming out about that Facebook Live that turned fatal. And if you're not familiar with the case of Duchess Dior and the Frenchman, let me educate you on that. So there's a couple on Facebook that went by the names of Duchess Dior. Her actual given name is Kiara Carr. And the Frenchman, whose given name is Shamarcus Carr. They both went live on their respective pages. And both these lives basically sat there and aired out every bit of dirty laundry they all had, due to infidelity, possible murder, abuse, transmitting of sexual diseases, all of that. So there's a lot going on there. At the end of the live, the husband, Shamarcus Carr, aka the Frenchman, killed his wife, Duchess Dior, or Kiara Carr, also known as Duchess Dior. Killed her. And then he off and went and killed himself. Now, the families of both sides have come out to talk about this. They have said, especially his mother, they were toxic with each other, but don't blame him, these kind of things. Same thing with her family. Don't blame her. It's not her fault. He killed her. So now the live went on for about an hour. And was this a local case? No. The comment that I just got was this a local case? No. This was down in Twin Cities, Georgia. So, but it's all over social media, TikTok, Facebook, you name it, it's everywhere. And I've been able to watch snippets because like the whole video has now been removed from social media, but people are releasing 5-minute segments here and there, and I've caught some here and I've been able to piece it together. So here's my thing. Sorry, I keep sliding out of my chair. They met under very unusual, not I shouldn't say unusual circumstances, but not typical circumstances. Um, Kiara Carr, Duchess Dior, worked as a prison guard. Shamarcus Carr, the Frenchman, was an inmate at said prison. So that's how they met. When he got out, he moved in with her. She already had a child, and then they got married, and then they had a baby. So right now there is a 7-year-old and about a 9-month-old that no longer have parents because of all this. Now, I looked into his history. I got into the Georgia court cases, and he's got a pretty extensive history of abuse and child abuse, assault of women, threatening, menacing, all you name it, he's done it. I didn't see anything on her, but I saw things on him. I would have thought with her being a CO, I'm not sure, or EO, I'm not even sure. Correct, yeah, CO, corrections officer. She would have had more sense not to get involved with somebody like that, or at least she should have known what his record was. But I don't know. I guess the heart wants what the heart wants. Take what you want on that one. But yeah, it's just a very sad case because that could have ended differently because she had multiple opportunities to get away from him. And she kept going back. And the question is why? I can't answer that because that's her situation. People ask me why I stayed in my abusive marriage, and I had my reasonings, and to a lot of people, it doesn't make any sense, but I did what I did. But it cost her life because she had a restraining order taken out against him in February this year, and she had it rescinded 3 weeks later. Who knows? And to watch how those two interacted with each other in that live, it was very toxic, it was very chaotic, and it just seemed like they thrived off that toxicity and chaos. And they were egging each other on. I think this came to a conclusion that I don't think anybody was really surprised that actually knew both of them because of what they brought. They brought out the worst in each other. And when that happens, there's only a couple conclusions you can get to. It's either something disastrous like what happened, or somebody gets away, one of the two. And it just didn't work out for the latter. It just ended up being the first thing. So, I do know those kids, they're going to be asking questions when they get older. And they're going to be looking and they're going to see these videos out all over the internet. They're going to see the lives. They're going to see the people's commenting on these lives. And, I'm curious to know how these kids react to that and what the family is going to do to help combat that because it could, especially the little girl, because that was the child they had together. That's her father who killed her mother, So, like I said, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But at the end of the day, a woman is dead, a man is dead, and 2 kids are now orphaned because of that. Because of some massive toxicity that should never have gotten to the point where it did. So, that case of the Frenchman and Duchess Dior or Shamarcus and Kiara Carr should be a how can I put this? A tale that everyone gets told of what not to do and what to avoid, these type of things. It's that case where I heard about this and I'm never going to let that happen to me type thing, because it could happen to anybody. It really could. I mean, like I said, my marriage got brutal, way brutal towards the end. And it's possibility that if he just went too far, I wouldn't be here right now. So, you know, just food for thought on that one. But yeah, like I said, everybody out there, just not everything needs to be seen online, because once you put it on the internet, it's there forever. You can never really pull it down. So, okay, I got another comment. Let's see what it says here. Oh, okay. So I got a comment here saying that they would like for me to look into the murder of Aaron Wood, a former coworker of the person who posted, found buried on a farm in Winston-Salem. Okay. Well, Kit Kat sent me an email about that case, your name, a little bit more information, like name and where they were found. And I'll be more than glad to do that. And my email is redtruecrime@gmail.com. So just send that over and I'll be more than glad to take a look into it and talk about it. Um, and that's the same for anybody. My email is redtruecrime@gmail.com. If you guys have a case you want me to cover or anything you want me to look into or talk about, send it to my email. I'll be more than glad to investigate it as much as I can and talk about it on here. So, like, we had a case last week where a girl went, it was a kidnapping in Kernersville, a girl that is in one of my crime discussion groups. And we were on a chat and she said, "Oh my God, I just witnessed this. Cops got called and everything. Not a word has been said about this woman. She was 18 years old. She was a high school kid and she got grabbed and thrown into a car. It was a very upsetting situation, but there's not been any news media about this case. Why? When the police are called, you've got witnesses, people talking about it. Why has this not been talked about? And Kernersville is like 20 minutes from here. Like, what is going on? So I'm getting tired of cops just not talking about stuff. I really am. But okay, well, I'm going to hop off here because I do need to go to bed and, rest and do the things that I do. And, but like I said, anybody who has a case you want me to cover or talk about or look into or just comments you want to send to me directly, my email again is RED, true, TRUE, crime, CRIME @gmail.com. So this is Red True Crime hopping off. Have a good night, everybody. Be weird, be rude, be safe, and please, please be careful because it's going to get hotter and people are going to get crazier. Yeah, I know. Media doesn't cover much. I understand. So, okay, everybody, good night. And thank you again for tuning in. And if you have not subscribed, please do so. And if you also would share, like, comment, and all that great stuff. So have a great night, everybody. Thank you again. Bye.